What's up, homie?
What is up? And just trying to see how I look here.
You look fine, son. Here, I want to put the volume up too. I can barely hear you. Let me see here. Or maybe I need to do this. Oh, that's better. Okay,
Okay, I think
perfect.
I look okay. Just
I actually like your hair a little messy like that, and then it looks a little bit more like um, stylish.
hello, welcome to the show, everybody. And today we are talking the five love languages by Gary Chapman, his early '90s book about love. This is a first, but Jacob, you teach this book in your as
Psychology
part of
class.
your content in your
Hmm.
psychology class. And so I guess I will start by asking you, what is it about the book that you like? Because I have some issues with the structure, and in all fairness, I have not read the book. I don't think I have.
Huh.
Um, I don't think so, but I'm very familiar with the ideas around it. And what is it about the book that has encouraged, sort of
Yeah.
motivated you to teach it?
Yeah. Well, the book came to my attention a few years after it was written. In '97, I was having some I didn't know this. One day I came home and my wife told me, I don't think we've been only married for a little over 3 years. I'm not sure if I love you anymore. And that's heavy. And that's humbling for me to share this online. But she shared that. And I was a young, mid 20-year-old person. And so I thought she was out to lunch. I thought, what's going on? I think I'm a good guy. What is she upset about? So we had like a time of silence. I call our mutual friend Bruce Welch, and he did a lot of our premarital counseling. And I asked him if we could have, or he told me, hey, let's have some dinner. And I shared with him what was going on, and he said, hey, have you read the book by Chapman, Five Love Languages? And I did not. And he started explaining about it, talking about it. So then I went ahead and read the book, Ruben. And I have to be honest with you. The reason why I share it with my students is because it really had an effect on me. And I think it's still one of the, if not the bestseller on this type of relationships, it's very close to the top, if not the top. And so as I read the book, I didn't know what my love language was or my wife's was, but pretty quick. Let me share the five love languages really quick, and then I'll talk about how I teach it and so forth. But it's words of affirmation, receiving gifts, quality time, physical touch, and acts of service. So and just to answer your question, Ruben, as I learned about these languages and found my wife's and mine, I incorporated it into our lives. And I learned really quick that these love languages, someone's love language by how they show love to others, or by how you show. I'm sorry, let me go back again. How you show love to others, and how you like to be loved, or what you complain about the most, right? So
So,
again, what's that?
for example, under this idea, if you are somebody who shows their love, let's say their love language through acts of service, that means not only do you like to receive acts of service, you also give acts of service type of
Yeah, that's
thing.
perfect. Yeah. So and that happened to be my wife's love language, and I didn't know it. It's act of service. So she had a long list of things she had telling me for years. Hey, get my car done, fix the screen door, the door is broken, all these different things. And I would say like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so basically her love tank was empty, like think of a gas tank. And so I was loving her the way I like to be loved, which is the words of affirmation. Sometimes people would say words of edification or words of encouragement. That's what I like. That puffs me up. That gets me a lot, and she's been doing that since day one. So she to this day, she's never read the book, my wife, but she got me right away. I didn't get her. So I was showing her love in the way I like to be loved, and her tank was empty. And so when I started showing her love, Ruben, like acts of service, started doing things around the house. And to this day, I vacuum, I fold clothes, I do dishes. I try to do as much as I can around the house because I know that's how she feels loved. And when I started doing that, Ruben, she was watching me. We weren't talking for a while. This is back in 97, 98 and 97. And so she stopped me one day after I think I made dinner for her, which I'd never done before. She goes, what's going on? And then I started explaining to her, and she right away said, "Oh, I know what your love language is. It's words about affirmation." And so, yeah, so that really blew me away. So to the effect where I said, "Wow, this has changed my marriage, really saved my marriage," because to this day I still show her love that way, because I know that's what she loves. Now she loves all five of them. I think we all like all five of them, but physical touch is not my love language. So I don't usually go to that, and that's not hers. So that's not something that we have to do. Although my son Gideon, that's his love language. So I bring this up to my students, Ruben, and they eat it up because they like listening about relationships. They like listening to my story, because I share my story that, hey, I become very vulnerable, transparent to them, and saying this is where I was at. And I actually even went to a Chapman workshop he and his wife gave maybe about 5-6 years ago, and that was really enlightening. It kind of refreshed me and so forth. But I really respect this book, and the kids seem to. Oh, and I do an assignment, Ruben, where I have them go home and write down for homework their love language, and they have to find out everyone's love language in their home. If it's quality time, physical touch, receiving gifts, and then they tell me everybody in their house's love language, and then they tell me somebody close to them, like let's say a brother that's a year or two younger. They have to show love to them in their love language over a weekend, and they come back to class and we discuss it. We talk about what their love language is, and then how they showed love to their sibling using their sibling's love language, and they'll tell the story. Oh, we went to the park, or I spent time with him. I bought him a card. I bought him some coffee, or I gave him a hug. I'm not a hugger, but my little sister loves hugs. So it comes out to be a very fruitful time, and the kids seem to love it.
Okay. Before I give my input
Mhm.
of this this idea, how do you specifically teach this though? I mean,
Yeah,
I heard you say that you had them do an assignment where they went
sure.
out. Is there anything else in terms of what do you give them quizzes on this or?
Well, there is a five love language test you could take if you can't really figure it out online. It's free, and so they can take that. Now, like I said, I do break down all five love languages. I go through each one. I talk about quality time, and I give examples of what that means. And I see, and I share about, hey, if someone you love is complaining that you don't spend time with them, that's probably their love language. That means they love it when you spend time with them. Like my son Orion, that's his love language. So when I spend time with him, he feels loved and he feels not neglected, right? And so I learned that over the years. I mean, we join Boy Scouts, we do things together, and I still sometimes struggle with that. So I have to be reminded by my wife, "Hey, wait a minute, you haven't been spending time with Orion." I go, "Oh shoot," and so that it reminds me of showing love that way. But in the class, yeah, I go through each one, and it takes a whole period because you go through each one. If they want me to take the quiz, we start discussing, their lives and so forth. And they start doing the homework, and then when they come back, it's always a really fruitful discussion when they come back, because it's interesting to see how they showed love. And I said, it's never a bad day when you're showing love to somebody. So yeah, it's always a positive thing.
Okay. I guess for me, first of all, with the two examples you gave,
Mhm.
I almost think that if you just started in your own personal relation, or in your own relationship with your wife, it just seems that you started becoming more engaged in the marriage. I guess to an outsider, maybe I'm just kind of hearing this as if let's pretend I never even heard of the love languages. It just sounds like a guy who's fully engaged now and might not have been before, and started listening a little bit more to his wife's needs, and now he's meeting them. On the second example you gave, it just sounds like your students were more engaged and they started loving their. And then when you spend time and you talk to somebody, you start to hear who they are more. You start to notice, oh, they like this. I'm gonna get them that. I don't know.
Mhm.
And I just want to say that you know what, you are way more experienced, obviously, in marriage than I am. So I'm just going to tell you, I could be completely wrong about this. I'm willing to, eat my crow about the love languages. Who am I, Jacob, to tell anybody how to live their love life? Right?
Yeah, but you
I'm
could
just
you could like do that towards girlfriends or other, it doesn't have to be a
sure.
wife.
I have experiences in this, so I want to say that I have a couple of comments on some of the, the languages, right?
Hmm.
First of all, acts of service. Now, this is just my impression, but
Hmm.
we should always be mindful of serving in a relationship. I can't imagine somebody saying, well, that's not my language. So vacuum, honey. Like
Right.
in a way, in a relationship, if you're not doing acts of service, it's not going to last long because he's going to say, you're not thinking about me. You didn't get me the coffee when you were at Starbucks. You just got it for yourself. Like you learn very quickly that acts of service has to be in the top two. That's just me though. That's just my experience. Any comment on that? Because I
No,
feel
I
like
would no, yeah, I would say that I think that because you made a comment that, oh, it looks like, that you're more engaged. And I think I am, but I think the book engaged me. So I think that's a positive piece.
for sure.
Without that book, I wouldn't have been engaged. And I read it, and the guy, I'd actually encourage you, Ruben, to read it because he actually comes from a spiritual background where that isn't needed per se, but it does help because I can relate to some of the things, and you can too, I think. But that, we should love the people around us, our friends, our love, our wives or girlfriends or whoever it is, or children. But yeah, I think that that it just I just encourage you to read it. That's it. But there was one more thing that you said that I wanted to mention, but keep going and I'll remember in a second.
The words of it was it edification, words of kindness.
Affirmation or edification. Yeah.
Now, I almost feel like that's the worst one, only because you should always be kind with your words. So that's a given. But stepping into this world of a relationship,
Mhm.
I have found that haven't you been in a situation where it's like, who cares what you say? What have you done for me? You're just talk. You're just all talk. It's almost like meaningless sometimes.
Maybe your love language is acts of service, though.
Well, I just feel like it's well, no, it's everything. You should do everything.
Yeah,
And the
and
words,
I just to be fair though, Ruben, I think we all like, and his point is all five of them we like. All five of them are wonderful. All five we should be doing, but
well,
there's one that fills your tank up.
haven't you had an experience where somebody has told you, words are cheap. Don't tell me you love me. What are you going to do about it? So to me, it's like the words come last almost to everything else. You have to serve, you have to act, you have to give gifts, you have to do this because that is more meaningful than I love you. But it's just a thought I have. And I guess the last thing I would say, by the way, Jacob, if a woman, as the kids would say, if a woman is into receiving gifts and not physical touch, the kids
I didn't
call
say
them
sexual touch. I said physical touch.
kids call those gold diggers, right? Oh yeah, give me gifts. I'm not into. I don't touch. You know what I mean? I'm a little.
But they're two different. You understand that though. Physical touch and sexual. I mean, they're the huggers. You know the huggers in the world who just love to hug, and that's what just gets them. They feel love.
I run the other way.
I know you're not. That's not your language.
But I guess for me, that's a myth, by the way. I don't mind hugging.
That's not my language. But just to be fair,
caricature. It's a caricature of
well,
me.
no, but to be fair, that's not my language either, Ruben. I don't think that's bad.
Well, let me just say this. So I'm going to come right out and say this as I'm open-minded to it.
Okay.
However, I feel like I'm a little suspicious of this and the Myers-Briggs and things like that because it's fixed. It's like this idea of this is who I am. And don't you feel like we change through the years? And,
yeah.
and it's dangerous to get into this idea of this is me. I'm not like that. On one hand, so I'm not buying into all of it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's a really good quote by Richard Feynman, a physicist, great thinker. He was featured in Oppenheimer. And he says this: the first principle is to not fool yourself, and you're the easiest person to fool. And I think that's instructive for me when I approach some of these surveys of who you think you are. I am not sure if I even know myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what would happen if you walk into a room? Are you the first person to talk? I think this way of how I am, But, I can't really be objective about myself. I'm a little bit suspicious of my own survey.
Yeah.
You
That's why
know,
it's good to ask other people, what do you think my love language is? And if you get 5 or 6 people saying the same thing, you're saying, okay, that's my love language. Now, at the same time, too, Ruben, I know over the years he's added, I'm not sure if he's added languages, but he's added, pieces to it. And there's a children's version too. So, and I haven't read those newer versions, so I can't really speak to it. But I would say this, that I understand. I mean, I'm very skeptical of surveys and all that as well. But when I find something that, like, if I find something that works, like I'm working on this diet, and when I say diet, I mean weight. It's really a change of life. When I find something I that works, I just work with it, And I found this relationship, and I don't read relationship books. I just don't. This might be one of the only ones I've ever read. No, there's probably a couple others before I got married, but besides that, I would say I found something that helped and it worked, and great, And if it doesn't work for you or doesn't help others, that's fine. But I've seen most people who I bought several copies of this book because I leave it on my desk and people borrow it. And over the years, I also have taught adults, and I've talked to them about this book, and I've had them take it, borrow it, and it's gone. But I'm okay with that because it's a good book. But that being said, it works for me and for others. And if it doesn't for you, that's fine. It is, like I said, I think it's the bestseller in this type of area, relationships. So that's why I encourage the audience to take a look at it. And you might say, no, it doesn't work for me, but it has worked for me. So I've been really appreciative of it, Dr. Chapman and his writings.
very good. And you answered my problem with it, with one of the problems, which is you don't, sometimes you can fool yourself. You had actually a really good point. You said you could ask other people, or you could even take this survey, I guess, with your partner and just say, is this right? Is this right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Good point.
yes, thank you everybody for joining us. The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. My apartment's falling apart, but we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.